What is it, Ted? Dude, I think we're gonna end up on YouTube. Whoa, you're right. I think it'll be a most excellent HMR, don't you agree? I think so, Ted. I think it's gonna be spectacular. Look, I'm still working on my surfer lingo, alright? Hello everyone, welcome back to another installment of Home Media Reviews. It's our super special multiple movie episode this time around. Is everyone excited? I'm sure we all are. In my mind, there was no other group of movies to pick for the multiple film episode here other than the Bill and Ted Trilogy. This just screams classic comedy to me. In fact, this was one of the first episodes I planned out when I first made the choice to make this current season comedy-based. This was, I think, the third or fourth episode I finally had nailed down. But let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into the history section of Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Trilogy. So for those of you that are new around here, let me explain how a multiple movie episode of Home Media Reviews works. A lot of the change comes with the history section. I'm not going through every copy of every Bill and Ted film ever made. That would take far too long. We go through each film in chronological order, starting with their original release, and then we go to the second movie, and then we go to that original release, and then we move on to any significant format jump. However, we also talk about any multi-packs that each of the films were included in. Only packs with the same films, though. There are some 3-packs that include the first Bill and Ted film, but not the second one. We won't be talking about those here. It was a lot of exposition and a lot of staring at a black screen for you guys, isn't it? So let's go ahead and pop up the Bill and Ted theatrical poster here when we talk about when Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure hit theaters. On February 17th, 1989, the world was introduced to these iconic surfer dudes played by Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter. On a budget of $10 million, the film grossed a respectable $40.5 million. Not a huge return on investment there, but the budget was also fairly small. $10 million, man, that's like the catering budget on some of those Disney live-action remakes. That's crazy. So the first time that Excellent Adventure hit a physical media format was on August 31st, 1989. That's when Excellent Adventure hit VHS. Can I just say, too, I love this theatrical poster. It, screams just vintage 80s comedy film. I love that they reused it for the VHS tape. This looks straight out of 1989. I'd love to own it one day. Moving along to Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, that hit theaters on July 19th, 1991. Pretty quick turnaround for a sequel there. It was only about 2 years in between the two films, so very impressive. It also had a higher budget than the first film, despite it looking kind of worse in terms of its effects. So Bogus Journey had a budget of $20 million. Unfortunately, it grossed less than the first film, about $2 million less. It grossed $38 million at the box office. So an even slimmer margin there with the return on investment. And I can see why they didn't make a third one until the 2020s. I also think the critical reception to the second movie had something to do with the fact that Bill and Ted 3 took forever to finally happen. In January of 1992, Bogus Journey hit VHS for the first time, and just like the first film, it reuses the theatrical poster of death and Bill and Ted slammed up against what I think is the telephone booth. It's like glass or something, so I'm assuming it's the telephone booth, like a little reference to the first film. Our next release that we're going to talk about here is when these two films first hit DVD for the first time. And they hit on the exact same day, December 4th, 2001. I feel like the Bogus Journey artwork is a little bit more iconic. That's definitely the poster that they use on the digital storefronts, at least they did back when I first saw the movie. I almost forgot. It's the history section. I should probably talk about my history with the Bill and Ted franchise before we move on. I picked up Excellent adventure a few years ago from a Walmart $5 bin. Spoiler alert for the close-up section, but it's the original Blu-ray release from 2012, just reprinted at a later date. And like many movies that I buy, it sat on the shelf for quite a while, but I finally got around to watching it a few years ago, and I thought it was, for lack of a better term, excellent. I really enjoyed it. And then for Bogus Journey, that movie was hard to find on Blu-ray for quite a while. I actually wound up renting that on, I think it was Google Play at the time, the Google Play Store, and watched it when I was working at UPS. There was a portion of my job where I could set up my phone in a little inconspicuous area and just have movies playing while I was working and not be too distracted. So that was fun to be able to watch that while I was working. And I believe I watched that leading up to Bill and Ted Face the Music. So it was around COVID time when I finally got the chance to watch Bogus Journey. So moving along, on July 12th, 2005, we got Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Collection, the very first 2-pack of these two films. It reuses artwork from the Bogus Journey assets. Our next copy is from about 6 to 7 years after that 2-pack hit. It's the Excellent Adventure Blu-ray release, the very first one, and it was released by MGM. It came out on November 13th, 2012. And like I said earlier, this is the copy we're going to take a look at during the close-up section. And I bought this around like 2018, 2019 or so, and it's the exact same artwork, exact same master as the 2012 version. So I'm pretty sure MGM or whoever owned them at that point just reprinted it to throw into the Walmart $5 bin. October 7th, 2014, 2 years after that, brings us the Bill and Ted's Excellent Double Feature Set. Basically a reprint of the set from 2005, but it shares artwork with the 2012 Blu-ray. Again, though, poor Bogus Journey is just stranded on DVD, and it will continue to be until September 27, 2016, when the Most Excellent Collection Blu-ray set hit store shelves. Or, I should say, hit online retailers, because the Most Excellent Collection was released through Shout Factory. It was the first time that Bogus Journey was ever made available on Blu-ray, so that's fun. Finally, that hit the Blu-ray format. Shout Factory does a lot with older films. They have their own boutique label going on. I believe they're the ones that were responsible for Ace Ventura finally showing up on 4K. They also have a whole horror label under the name Scream Factory. If you own any Nickelodeon cartoon complete series set, like Rocko's Modern Life or something like that, more than likely it's a Shout Factory release. They do a lot of good work. If you didn't want that kind of expensive Shout Select Blu-ray set, you could wait until October 18, 2016 and walk into your local Walmart to pick up the Most Excellent Double Feature Blu-ray re-release. Also done by Shout Factory. See, sometimes they put things in stores and sometimes they don't. It's kind of odd. This was a stripped down release that only included the two films, no bonus content, no commentaries or anything like that. There were 2 steelbooks that Shout Factory released for both of the films, but they were not released within a close time period, so I'm not going to cover them here. And finally, we come to the theatrical release of Bill and Ted Face the Music. Well, sort of theatrical release. You could see the film in theaters on August 28th, 2020, or you could watch it in your home through the video on demand, because everyone remembers what happened in 2020, that horrible, awful year that no one wants to talk about. I'll say this, though, I did see Bill and Ted in theaters with my wife. That was fun. We were like one of 3 people in the theater. She had not seen any Bill and Ted movies up until that point, and I was really hyping it up, and she did not think it was very funny. So on a budget of $25 million, the film made, drumroll please, $6.3 million in theaters. And I'm proud to say that me and my wife were part of that $6.3 million. We paid our $20 to see Face the Music in theaters, so we contributed to that. I don't think any numbers for how many times people bought this at home have ever been released, so I'm not sure if this movie was profitable or not. I would like to think that it is. Face the Music then hit Blu-ray and DVD on November 10th, 2020. A really short turnaround for a theatrical run. Everything was kind of cut short in 2020. That was a crazy year, wasn't it? Not only that, but we also get our first 3-film collection. But that was only released on Blu-ray. There was no DVD. But fear not, DVD-only collectors. Less than a year later, on October 26, 2021, you could have picked up a DVD-only version of the 3-film collection. Why would you want to? I don't know. But it's nice to have the option. About a year after that, on October 22nd, 2022, Shout Factory has re-entered the history section with a brand new 4K release of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Now, I believe that a European-based company known as Studio Canal, they had already done the 4K transfer for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and to my understanding, this was available overseas, like in European markets, for a couple of years prior to Shout Factory getting their hands on the 4K transfer. If you wanted 4Ks of the other 2 films, you had to wait 2 years. August 6, 2024 brings us the triumphant Trilogy 4K set. And this includes all of the movies on Blu-ray and 4K. But if you were a chump and bought Excellent Adventure all by itself in 2022, you didn't have to rebuy it in the Trilogy set. You could have gotten Face the Music and Bogus Journey just by itself, because Shout Factory was so nice and released them individually. And that, folks, brings us to the end of the history section for Bill and Ted. So why don't we go ahead and move right along to the close-up. Alrighty, everyone, here's your close-up look at Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Trilogy. We're starting off here with a standard Blu-ray copy of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And you've got the Blu-ray disc logo up there, cast list, Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, and George Carlin. The film's logo, there's Keanu and Alex, and then George Carlin behind them, and they're riding on top of the telephone booth. This poster is just fantastic. Everything about it just screams, what the hell is this movie? The spine, you've got the MGM logo, the film's title, a portrait taken from the film's poster art, Blu-ray disc logo. The back features a blurb about the film, your barcode up there on the top right, screenshots taken from the film, a breakdown of all your special features, film's rating, as well as cast and crew information and technical specifications. And on the inside, we actually have some artwork here. We got Bill and Ted inside of the phone booth. So moving along to Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Trying to pick up a standard version of Bogus Journey just by itself on Blu-ray is extremely hard. There is the Shout Factory Steelbook, but that is significantly more expensive than just picking up the Shout Factory Blu-ray 2-pack. So technically I do own 2 copies of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Blu-ray just logo up there at the top. Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Double Feature. Then there's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure over there. It's using the theatrical poster art, which I also really like. And then here's the theatrical poster for Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey with Death, played by William Sadler, behind them. It's a trip. The spine, Blu-ray disc logo, Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Double Feature. There's Bill and Ted again, MGM, Shout Factory, and then a product number down there. The back, 2 outrageous adventures on 1 awesome Blu-ray. There's a screenshot from when Bill and Ted pick up Socrates from ancient Greece. You've got a barcode up there. You have a blurb about Excellent Adventure, and then below that there's your blurb about Bogus Journey, and then there's them playing Battleship Against Death. And then below that, we've got some technical specifications as well as your film ratings. And on the inside, they put both films on one Blu-ray disc. I don't like this very much, but the films are relatively short, so I guess it's not too bad. And they are Shout Factory releases, so I can't be too upset about that. The poster art's pretty generic. It's just them two from the first film after they aced their history report. Spoiler alert, I suppose. And then the two film titles up there at the top. But if you wanted to have the film's poster art on the outside, you do have some reversible cover art here. You've got the poster from the first film and the poster from the second film. You could use this as reversible cover art. I wouldn't, though. I don't know, it just doesn't seem right. I much prefer this artwork on the outside. It's cool that the posters are on the inside, though. And we finish things off with the latest installment in the Bill and Ted franchise, Face the Music. This one looks relatively more modern because it came out in 2020. They got Blu-ray plus digital code up there at the top. Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter, the film's logo, the famous telephone booth standing behind a much older Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter, as well as their daughters in the film, and a whole bunch of side characters, and there's death as well. Oh, I forgot to mention, too, you also have the Circuits of Time back there. That's cool, too. I like this poster, but nothing beats the theatrical one. That one's just, what the hell is that movie? The spine is your standard Warner Brothers spine. You've got the blue bar up there at the top with the Blu-ray disc logo. Bill and Ted Face the Music. Orion Pictures logo as well as the Warner Brothers logo. The back features some screenshots from the film as well as your barcode there peeking through the slipcover. Most triumphant. You've got a blurb about the film itself as well as a breakdown of all your special features. Then down at the bottom, an explanation of how to use your digital movie code. And then you got some cast and crew information, some legalese and stuff down there. I guess just legalese, there's no cast and crew down there. Excuse me. You've also got some Blu-ray specifications down there. Take off the slipcover. Underneath, same poster. Spine is pretty much the same, and the back is pretty much the same, except now we've made room for the cast and crew information that I so incorrectly labeled earlier. On the inside, here's what your digital copy code looks like. I've already used mine. And what does your disc look like? Da 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 da! It's the phone from inside of the phone booth. Isn't that fun? Whoa, had to back the camera out for this shot, but that is one most excellent trilogy. That wraps things up for the close-up. Let's move right along to the menu tour. Okay, folks, here we are for your menu tour of the Bill and Ted trilogy. Starting off with excellent adventure here. And this is an earlier Blu-ray release, so it's not gonna have a menu on it. Or I should say it's an earlier Blu-ray master. I don't believe they ever changed the master for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, at least until it got remastered on 4K. So this is one of those funny movies where you can only access the menu while the movie is actually playing. So I've got it paused here on just the title screen to avoid any copyright shenanigans we may get into. So if I hit the up arrow on my remote controller, your options appear down there at the bottom. You've got play, setup, scenes, and extras. Let's take a look at setup here. For audio, we have a 5.1 English mix, Spanish 1.0 mix, and that's it for audio. Not a lot of options here. How about subtitles? We have English for the deaf and hard of hearing, Spanish, French, and that's it. So for scenes, each scene has a number and a screenshot. If we scroll to the end, 16 scenes, and that's not the credits. So perfect. For a movie that runs about an hour and 28 minutes, that's a perfect amount of scenes. And for extras, we have the original Bill and Ted in conversation with Chris and Ed. I believe those are the creators of Bill and Ted. Air guitar tutorial. One sweet and sour Chinese adventure to go. Radio spots. Theatrical trailer. And that's it. So a perfectly adequate amount of bonus content for a movie like this. And now here's our menu tour for the most excellent double feature ever. We're only going to be taking a look at the Bogus Journey menu though, but I did want to document this. There is this little movie selection screen here, so you can choose either Excellent Adventure or Bogus Journey. So here is your menu for Bogus Journey. You've got play, scenes, audio, and subtitles down there. You also have a little option to go back to the movie select screen. You want to take a look at scenes here. So taking a look at scenes, each scene has a number and a screenshot, and if you scroll over it, you'll be able to tell which scene that you've selected based on if it's in color or not. And scrolling all the way to the end, 12 scenes, 11 if you don't count the credits. You have two audio options here. You've got a 5.1 mix and a 2.0 mix. I assume those are both just English. And for subtitles, you can either turn them on or off. I assume, again, that's just for English. No special features, though, for either film. No audio commentaries, no featurettes, nothing. This 2-pack is pretty bare bones. And finally, we end things off with Face the Music. And that stock standard Warner Brothers menu rears its ugly head yet again. You got all your options down there at the bottom, and the film's poster art plastered behind it. Let's take a look at the scene selection first. Just like with the first two Blu-rays, you've got screenshots and numbers for each of your scenes. And if we scroll all the way to the end, 9 scenes. That's a lot less than I was expecting. I mean, yeah, the movie is only 92 minutes, but like, damn. I was expecting at least a scene for the end credits. Your audio options are English descriptive audio, Spanish, and Dutch for some reason. That's such a random inclusion. Your subtitles are Spanish, there's Dutch again, and English. And your special features are as follows. You've got the entire Comic-Con panel for Bill and Ted Face the Music. That's pretty cool. Well, it's Comic-Con at home. That was during the pandemic, unfortunately. You have Be Excellent to Each Other, A Most Triumphant Duo, Social Peace, Excellence, and then I believe that's a deleted scene for Death's Crib. So it's probably like a tour of Death's home when Bill and Ted go back to hell in this movie. So that wraps things up for your menu tours. Let's go ahead and head on back and answer the 5 main questions as always. Alright, so we're back from the close-up. Now it's time to answer the 5 main questions as always. Number 1, where can you pick this product up? You know, I looked on Shout Factory's website, and the 4Ks of all of these movies are still available individually. So you can go on to Shout Factory right now and get yourself a copy of any of these movies in the highest quality possible on a physical media format. That's crazy. I haven't been able to say that for a couple of weeks. Number 2, is this product still being printed nowadays? This is a weird one because Shout Factory is not one of those companies that lets things sell out. As long as they have the rights to something, they're going to keep making new prints of it. It's kind of like Kino Lorber in that way. But unlike with Kindergarten Cop, these movies are still in stock, and they're even on sale right now. The last time I checked, I think Bogus Journey for like $35, and that's down, I think, $5, its original price of $40. So I'm going to break my rule a little bit here. I'm going to say, yeah, these are still being printed nowadays by Shout Factory. Number 3, should you pick this product up? So we're going to go through each film one by one. I'll give you a recommend for each, and then at the end I'll tell you whether or not I recommend the entire trilogy or not. So we start things off with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. George Carlin opens up our film playing Rufus, a guy from the future who tells us Bill and Ted are responsible for making the future so great. This is the kind of movie we're in for. 2 weird surfer dudes who aren't doing pot, yet talk like they're doing pot, are responsible for making the future into a utopian society. I'm already hooked from the first 5 minutes. Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves. What can you say about these two? And their comedic timing. It's absolutely perfect. They didn't invent the whole surfer lingo thing, but they made it more famous than it already was. I'm convinced of that. Keanu is particularly good at making himself sound insanely dumb. I think it comes naturally for him. "We are in danger of flunking most heinously tomorrow, Ted." Alex Winter does a great dumb voice too, but Keanu's way better at it. So Rufus is sent back in time in a phone booth to stop the boys from flunking history, or else Ted will be sent to military school, dooming the entire future. Do today's kids know what a phone booth is? I'll admit I've never set foot in one. I don't think I've ever seen one in person, but I've seen a lot of media with phone booths in them. With kids not really going back and watching older films, they're more into the more modern stuff. I don't think we've seen a phone booth in a movie since, 2003's Phone Booth? "Excuse me, when did the Mongols rule China?" "I don't know. I just work here." Oh, the days before the internet. We didn't have unlimited knowledge at our fingertips. We had to ask random Circle K employees. "Hey, Bill?" "Yes, Ted?" "Strange things are afoot at the Circle K." The circuits of history. I love this idea. The effects are very retro and immediately make me think of that pipe screensaver from Windows XP. Usually I'd criticize this, but it evokes feelings of nostalgia, so I'll let it slide. Plus, knowing the movie only had $10 million to work with, that lets me be a little bit more forgiving towards these kind of iffy effects. So after Bill and Ted visit the time period when Napoleon was alive, Napoleon himself ends up in modern day after falling through a time hole. And that's where Bill and Ted get the idea just to round up old historical figure for their oral report. "Hey, Bill, this is just like Frontierland." It's so fun to watch these two go through history together. They're playing poker with Billy the Kid. How can you not like this? They end up in medieval England, and there's a really nice moment with Bill after the two have their play sword fighting match. Ted is knocked down a flight of stairs and is supposedly killed by someone at the bottom. Alex Winter does a really good job at showing Bill's anguish over that situation, and I actually felt some emotion there. The explanation for how Ted survived, that's pretty stupid. But for this kind of movie, I can go along with it. They even end up in the future, and they're completely unfazed by just how off everything feels. They're completely unfazed and ultimately oblivious to the fact that they're the ones that inspired this entire future, which is hilarious. It's also where we get the first mention of the ever so famous line, "Be excellent to each other and party on, dudes." The most unrealistic thing about this movie isn't the time travel aspect. It's how many people they fit in that tiny phone booth. You have 6 historical figures and Bill and Ted all packed in there. There's no way they'd all fit. Here's something I never thought I'd say. Napoleon cheats at bowling. Do you think if I put that in a high school history paper that the teacher would be like, "That's fact. You know what? I'll let that slide." I've never seen oral reports be given in large high school auditoriums. Of course, I never really had to give an oral report in school. That really wasn't a thing. I was able to avoid public speaking when I was in college as well. It wasn't a requirement for an IT degree. We get even more Napoleon hijinks. He's apparently a big fan of water parks. And he cuts the line at the water slide. All of this should go in your next history paper. Don't worry, I said it was okay. So Bill and Ted bring all of the historical figures to a mall, and they pretty much go on a rampage. This was the best part of the entire film. Seeing Genghis Khan skateboard Sigmund Freud with a "kick me" sign on his back, Abraham Lincoln punch a photographer. It's all amazing. Billy the Kid and Socrates even hit on some ladies in the food court. I mean, that's Socrates. Come on. How could you not love him? Maybe I'm a little biased here, but Bill and Ted's report was clearly the best one. The lighting effects, the music, they got actual historical figures to show up. It's pretty amazing. Abraham Lincoln even says, "Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes." This movie, absolute cinema. Just, oof, wonderful. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is such a wild ride. It not only has two great leads, but some fun science fiction thrown in with the whole time travel aspect. It's the perfect start to this most excellent trilogy, and comes highly recommended. All right, we are on a good roll here. Let's move right along to Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. The stakes of this sequel are already bigger than the first. The opening scene establishes that perfectly and shows that we're in for an even wackier adventure than before. Bill and Ted have their own university in the future, and Rufus is a professor there. It's great to see that this sequel isn't wasting any time filling out the universe. Denomalos, Rufus's old teacher, is our main villain throughout the film, played by Joss Ackland. He really only appears in the first scene and the end scene. He does appear throughout the film, but he really only does things in the first scene and the climax. But when he is on screen, he's really good. He definitely leans into that over-the-top tyrant feel that he's trying to go for, especially with that funny accent. In the first film, we had the running joke of Bill's stepmom, Missy. Well, that joke is back, and Missy has now apparently divorced Bill's dad and married Ted's dad. Dude, I felt kind of bad for Bill's dad, though. He was so happy last movie, and now he's divorced. Dude, maybe she'll marry you next, and then you'll be your own stepdad. Shut up, Bill. I love that Bill and Ted are still with the princesses from the first film. That's a great detail that's carried over, and the two seem genuinely smitten with them. They're actually being kind of mature here, trying to get better jobs to make more money to support their women. The engagement scene, that was just really sweet. I like that a lot. Aim for the cat, dude. I'm trying, evil Ted. I think Reeves and Winter are having more fun as the evil versions of Bill and Ted. Their plan is definitely insane, pretending to be the princesses and saying, "We're going to the desert to be alone." Oh yeah, there's robot duplicates of Bill and Ted in this movie. I told you it's going to be wackier than the first one. The scene where Bill and Ted die might actually be my favorite in the film, despite how morbid it really is. The comedy is dialed up to 11, and the robot effects look really good too. Whoa, you're metal, dude! Yeah, check it out! It's not taken seriously at all, which is interesting since Bill and Ted literally die after being thrown off a cliff. Which, funny enough, the original title for this film was Bill and Ted Go to Hell, which the MPAA did not like because hell is bad. We get introduced to one of the best characters here after Bill and Ted die, William Sadler, who plays Death, or the Grim Reaper. They mainly call him Death, though. He's initially played as Sirius, though. You may challenge me to a contest. I don't know what that voice is that Sadler's going for, but I love it. So, Bogus Journey. I just want to talk for a second. You have $20 million to work with here. How the hell do your effects look worse than the first film, which had a lower budget? The effects when Ted possesses his dad, what in the world were you thinking with that? The actors who play Ted's dad, though, and the other guy who get possessed were pretty good at matching Reeves and Winter's performances. Using the seance to try to contact Missy, though, was actually kind of a good idea. If these two weren't such boneheads, they wouldn't have gotten themselves sent to hell. Let's talk about this interpretation of hell. It's interesting. It's like a series of labyrinths, and everyone has their own room that's designed to torture them in a very specific way. It's different from most interpretations where it's giant lakes of fire and the stereotypical devil just hangs around all day. Kind of like what we'll see later on in Bill and Ted Face the Music, but I digress. I'm a Christian, so obviously I believe that hell is a real place, and the way that the Bible talks about hell is its eternal separation from God, which those who don't accept Christ as their Savior are destined to experience one day. If you think about it, the Bible never actually talks about lakes of fire until Revelation, when Jesus eventually comes back. So in a way, Bogus Journey might have the most accurate interpretation of hell we've seen on screen. They're both just trapped in this labyrinth. They're not necessarily being tortured per se. They're both trapped in this giant labyrinth, unable to escape, and they're both stuck in their own personal rooms dealing with their own personal traumas. So when Death said earlier that you had to challenge him to a contest to be able to escape hell, I don't think anybody thought that playing Battleship was going to be that contest. Who knew Death was so petty? He can't take that loss. You have sunk my battleship. Best 3 out of 5. He can't play Clue either, or Twister. This entire scene is just so wacky. I'm loving it. Okay, I said earlier that maybe the Death scene was my favorite. No. Them playing Death in various board games, this is my favorite scene. So after they beat Death in literally everything, I'm pretty sure they played Uno at one point, the boys and Death get to go up to heaven and seek an audience with God. This movie is pretty Christian when you think about it. Bill and Ted meet up with Station, a pair of Martians who are the most brilliant scientists in the universe. Did you assume the most brilliant scientist in the universe would be from Earth? I love the practical suits for Station. They look unique and aren't what you'd expect Martians to look like. Oh yeah, there are now aliens in this universe. I'd question nothing anymore after ending up in hell and playing Death in Battleship. Alright, we've now made it to the climax. There are now good robots of Bill and Ted that are made by Station, who has recombined into one singular creature, and the Battle of the Bands is on. More practical effects are on screen here with the recombined version of Station and the good robots of Bill and Ted, all of which look really good. The robots have a great homemade feel about them, especially with all those random parts thrown in. The evil robots are defeated pretty quickly. I was left a little underwhelmed by that. Hey, the villain's finally going to do something. Denamolos decides he's just going to finish Bill and Ted off himself. Not sure what he was hoping to accomplish by broadcasting on every channel, since the future he's from is thousands of years from now. I mean, I know what that's supposed to do. It's supposed to set up the whole, hey, Bill and Ted wrote the song that united the world. But I'm not sure what his goal was. Oh, wait, maybe he thinks that Bill and Ted are already this worldwide phenomenon. So by him killing them and broadcasting that everywhere, he thinks he might change the entire future. Okay, that makes more sense. Even the funny time travel jokes from the first film make a return here. Had the sandbag and the gun and everything, and the cage being set up. Death even gets a little moment giving a Melvin to Denamolos. I've never heard wedgies called Melvin before, but okay, that's basically what it is. Another fun time travel joke here. Bill and Ted leave for 16 months to learn guitar, but are only gone for about 2 seconds. Gotta love time travel. They give a most excellent performance and the future is saved. I love the ZZ Top beard on Bill. Not sure whose facial hair Ted was copying. So Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is bigger, wackier, and in some cases, funnier than the first. I dare say I like it more than the first one because of just how unserious everything is. The first one is a really good movie all around. This one, it's a great comedy all around. Definitely recommended. And now we've made it to our final film with Bill and Ted Face the Music. We begin with Bill and Ted's daughters giving us a recap of the last 2 adventures. I think these characters have been retconned. Those were totally supposed to be sons in Bogus Journey. Come on, they're called Little Bill and Little Ted. Apparently, the song to save the universe, though, hasn't happened yet, and time is folding in on itself, leading to Jesus showing up at a concert and George Washington on a baseball field. I love how the Missy joke is still a running gag. She's now marrying Ted's younger brother. But man, Ted's dad, he's looking a little older today. And so is Ted himself. Keanu without a beard. I'm not a fan. After seeing him in John Wick, his baby face is kind of distracting. It's definitely accurate to the first 2 films. Ted never had a beard or anything, but why didn't they go that way, though? He had a nice little goatee going on at the end of Bogus Journey. He could have kept that. There's just something off about it. I'm not sure what it is. Alex Winter, he doesn't look like he's aged a day. He maybe has a couple little cracks in his face, but he's looking great. And hey, they both still have that great chemistry with each other all those years later. The couple's therapy scene shows that these guys haven't aged at all between movies. They're inseparable, even being married men. Not a healthy way to live out your marriage. Notice the original actresses who played the princesses are not back here. Interesting. I do, however, like that Bill and Ted ended up marrying these princesses and are still together. Kelly, Rufus's daughter, comes back in time to bring Bill and Ted back to the future, and we get a glimpse at what modern effects look like in this franchise. The future has been totally redefined, but it has some of that 90s touch still in it. Kelly's also played by Kristen Schaal, famous for her role on Bob's Burgers as Louise. I've recently heard her voice in BoJack Horseman. No one told me I'd care so much about Sarah Lynn in that show. You're a dick, Ted. Another returning joke. Ted hates himself. The other you is a very contentious dickweed. This is a fun little detail, but the in-movie clock that Keanu has that's counting down to the destruction of reality is pretty close to the actual running time of the movie. He's got 68 minutes on his clock, and there's about 68 minutes until we hit the climax of the film. And Bill and Ted's daughters, Billy and Thea, are on their own little adventure. Very similar to the first film, except they're gathering up music legends. I have one question, though. Out of all the music legends that they gather up, where the hell is Angus Young? He's one of the greatest guitar players to ever hold the instrument. Why is he not represented here? And come to think of it, I haven't heard any AC/DC throughout any of these films. They've had great soundtracks, a lot of heavy metal. AC/DC is basically the definition of that. Where the hell are they in this soundtrack? I don't mind Bill and Ted's daughters. I think they're pretty good. They copy Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves' mannerisms really well. It just makes sense that the daughters of Bill and Ted would also grow up to be exactly like Bill and Ted. I mean, come on. The funniest version of Bill and Ted are definitely the ones in prison. They're going on this whole time travel spree to try to find the song to save the universe from their future selves, and they go through a whole bunch of different scenarios where their future selves hate their past selves. They end up finding out that their future selves end up in prison at one point. The over-the-top tattoos, the giant muscle suits, the way they beat up the robot. You want some Bill and Ted, punk? Oh yeah, there's also a robot introduced here. People in the future want to kill Bill and Ted because reasons. It's kind of a lot happening here in this little 90-minute movie. There's a funny moment with Kelly when she's on the phone with her mom, though. Well, the Sahara Desert just appeared in San Dimas, and Queen Elizabeth is looking right at it. Hey, another fun callback to the previous film. The daughters and all of the music people end up in hell. Any excuse to get William Sadler back as Death is a good one, in my opinion. Dude, we need this guy to laser us, but he appears to be having some kind of nervous breakdown. Bill and Ted, though, they're so forgiving of that robot. They even let him join them on their little adventure. The stuff in hell is some of the best comedy in the entire movie. The reunions, the return of Death, it's all great stuff. Although we don't get the somewhat accurate hell that we got last time, this is more of a stereotypical, ooh, lake of fire, everyone's doing manual labor forever type thing. What were Bill and Ted's daughters doing with those shovels? Were they just like mining for something? Like, is that what happens in hell? Is that what they think goes on there? Well, if it isn't the wild stallions. Whatever, the climax is here, we have Death, the band is back together, and the duo realizes that their daughters are actually the ones who perform the song to save the universe. I'm sure people would call this woke garbage because, oh no, females taking over my franchise. But unlike other examples of that happening, this feels like a natural progression. Bill and Ted had their moment in the spotlight, and it didn't work. Handing over that spotlight to the next generation actually shows their growth as characters. I think it's the first time these two have actually grown in the franchise. Instead of holding on to their past through the excuse of, well, it's our destiny. They've let it go, and they've transcended onto a greater purpose. Meaning the greater purpose in the climax. They don't become like divine beings or something. No. They have to split into infinite versions of themselves and hand out instruments throughout all of time. As explained by Kid Cudi, who is apparently a quantum mechanics expert. That was funny. I'll give it that. Plus, it's not even their daughters that actually perform the song. They're just the ones that made it sound good. They're the ones that arranged all of the music and all the notes and everything and basically directed it. It's Bill and Ted that actually perform the guitar solo that saves the entire universe. So yes, their song did save time. Now, Bill and Ted Face the Music is full of callbacks to the original films, but it has just enough new stuff here to justify its existence. It's never going to be as iconic as the first or as wacky as the second, but it's a very solid ending to this trilogy and provides a nice wrap-up for a lot of these characters. I recommend it, but it is my least favorite of the trilogy. I don't think that this is like the greatest thing that could have ever happened for Bill and Ted. I think it's fine enough, and it's perfectly serviceable, and it works. So do I think it could have been better? Absolutely. I think if you trimmed out a lot of the plot and kind of just let Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves do their thing, I feel like this could have been more fun. There's a lot here that happens and a lot of callbacks to the first two films, which don't really work when you've already watched the first two films over the last couple of days. So now the big question. Would I recommend the entire Bill and Ted trilogy? I think we all know where I'm going here. The first two films are amazing. I would rank them as Bogus Journey as number 1, Excellent Adventure at number 2, and then Face the Music at number 3. Face the Music, it's not bad. It's also not great. It's not what the first two films are. So we have two really great films, great comedies, and then one that's kind of like, yeah, it's good, it's got some fun stuff in it, provides a nice ending, but I really hope they don't go forward with Bill and Ted 4 or anything like that. Let's just leave this alone. Yeah, I think that's enough to say, yes, I do recommend the entire Bill and Ted trilogy, just because the third film kind of stumbles a bit while it's running to the finish line, and that's no excuse to disqualify the entire thing. Number 4, where should you pick this product up? Well, same answers as number 1. And number 5, what price should you pay? Well, if you want any of the Shout Factory stuff, wait for sales, for one thing. I don't think you should be paying $40 for a 4K. That to me just seems a little ridiculous, even if it is from a really nice label like Shout Factory. I'd say wait for sales on the individual 4K films. I'd say wait for them to go down to about $30. Although if you wanted to pick them up now, I feel like they're all on sale for $35. So I'd actually go for that too. 30 to 35, I think, is my price point for those. As far as the regular Blu-ray for Excellent Adventure and Face the Music goes, you can find those practically anywhere on eBay. A lot of people bought those and are now trying to get rid of them, so you can find those anywhere. You can pick them up from anywhere from 5 to 10, maybe even $15. For Bogus Journey, though, you either have to buy that 2-pack that was exclusive to Walmart, you have to find the Steelbook, which people overcharge for that Steelbook, or you can buy the Shout Factory 2-pack, which, to be honest, if you want Bogus Journey on Blu-ray, just bite the bullet and buy the 4K. There's really no reason to seek out any version of the 2-pack. Honestly, the best value for your money is the Triumphant Trilogy set. So, folks, that wraps things up here for the home media review on Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Trilogy. I'm really happy that I went back and watched these again. I'd forgotten how funny these movies are. They're just great, and if you haven't seen them, you definitely should. So next week, we return to our single film HMRs, and we're leaving the buddy comedies behind. We're moving into a little bit of alternative indie comedy. Or, well, it was indie when it first came out. Now the guy who directed it's really mainstream. Even though he'd like you to think he's still indie, he's part of the mainstream now. His first film, though, many people think it's his best. There's some out there who think he's never improved upon his first film. I don't tend to agree with that. I feel like anyone is capable of improving. But I will say that Clerks was definitely lightning in a bottle for Kevin Smith, and that's what we'll be talking about next week. Thank you all so very much for watching. I'll see you all then. Good night, everybody.